Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone that has been in the business just under 10 years, the first 4 years on the ops and support side, the last 5 in origination, also did some coaching along the way in there. And in his time, in that 5 years, 5.5 years originating, he's made the Scotsman Guide top 1% originators in the nation and is a top ranked originator in the Charlotte area for customer service. Currently a sales manager with Guild Mortgage. Matt Doyle, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. It is a pleasure. I'm excited for the conversation. I know you're going to share a lot of wisdom and insight for anybody who's listening. And I just want to, I guess, what do they say in The Sound of Music? Let's start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Like, how did you get into mortgage, and what brought you to this industry?
So that's actually a funny story. I graduated from Appalachian State University. So if anybody is familiar with us, yes, we did beat Michigan way years ago in football, and then they came back and kicked our ass in the second round. But that's the school I went to college for, or that's the college I went to school for. Graduating was, born and raised in North Carolina, and I was about to accept a marketing position in Detroit, Michigan. And I talked with my dad, and he's like, before you do that, I want you to meet somebody. And he had me meet Rick Ruby. So if you're in the mortgage industry, you've probably heard that name.
Yeah.
He's the founder and leader for the core training. And Rick said, come work for me. I'll teach you how to do mortgages, and I'll teach you how to sell. Don't go to Detroit. I lived there my entire life. North Carolina is way better. So quick shout out to Rick. Thank you for saving me from moving to Detroit. I worked there at the start of my career straight out of college, learned a lot about sales, learned a lot about, structure and customer support and how to properly approach the mortgage industry. Worked there and learned so much information, but what I was sharing and what I was learning, I was seeing that it wasn't being implemented in the industry. So, I'd have friends reach out to me and they say, Matt, I want to buy my first house. And then they would tell me, I had no idea what just happened. And I'm like, well, hold on. Like that's not how this is supposed to go. And, I just decided instead of trying to advise other people of what to do, I wanted to do it myself. So I kind of got started in the mortgage industry here with Guild. Been here my entire career. And like you said, I've been very blessed to have a phenomenal start to this industry over the last 5.5 years.
Yeah. So I've got a real curious question. I'm sure other people are curious about. How did your dad know Rick Ruby?
So my dad is an avid cigar smoker. And if you know anything about Rick, he is as well. So, I wasn't really sure how this interaction was going to go when I'm straight out of college. And my dad's like, I know a guy from a cigar bar. I want you to talk to him. And I'm like, who the heck is my dad trying to set me up with? It's like if your parents ever say, hey, I met this really nice girl. You're like, well, what door are we walking into? But I'm very blessed that my dad did connect me with Rick and kept me in the North Carolina. It was phenomenal.
It's a common theme that comes up on this show is that where you start really matters. And, I've talked to a lot of people, and what's really common is they get into a high performance environment, right? They'll join a branch with a top producer as a junior, or, I just finished recording an episode with someone who got into the industry right in the middle of 2020, and it was just humming all day, every day, touching 7 files a day, 7 days a week, just like so much exposure. And I find the people that get in and are in these high performance environments, they just acclimate to them and it becomes the norm. And getting your start on the coaching side, just getting exposed to the work ethic and the habits and what it takes to be a top producer is no surprise that you've sort of, become one of them. And so that's a great story, man. I think more people should get into the coaching side of this business too, and whether it's just as a colleague or an accountability partner or whatever, just like have those relationships where you're holding each other accountable, you're tracking numbers, you're doing those things that really push one another to a higher standard. So anyway.
Completely.
Yeah. And so at what point after getting your start did you decide, like, hey, this is the career for me. I'm pretty good at this. I want to pursue it more. Like, what was that turning point like for you?
So it actually happened while before I got started in the origination side myself. I was still like working in the support, coaching operations side, and I went to buy my first house. And, I thought, surely I know what's going on. I work with so many phenomenal people and so many phenomenal loan officers. Surely I have a good pulse on how mortgages operate. And I bought my first house, and Connor, I didn't know shit. I did not know why I was in a conventional loan versus FHA because, like so many people, I thought FHA was the first time home buyer loan, which it's not. I thought, why am I in this loan versus that loan? What is PMI? What is mortgage insurance? How does my credit score play a factor? All these different questions that in the industry I didn't know the answer to. And I was like, this feeling sucks. I don't know what I'm signing. I don't know what I am agreeing to pay or agreeing to do or whatever. And I was like, if this is how I feel, what does everybody else feel that has less exposure in the industry than I did? So I decided, truthfully, I'm just going to treat every single person, regardless if it's their first time buying their house or their 20th. I want to educate them on how this process is done. I want to educate them on how these numbers come together. And ultimately, I want to inform them and give them the options for them to choose the loan program they want to do. Because even though I might think, option one is the no brainer option, the reality is I'm not the one buying the house. They are. So if they don't agree that option one is the best option for them, I'm going to educate them on what option two looks like, or option three, or option four, and ultimately let them decide how they want to proceed.
Yeah, I love that. And you've got a good like analogy for it too. We were talking about before we
Yeah,
started recording. You want to share a little bit about that?
I would love to. So, for anybody listening, I want you to remember the movie The Wizard of Oz because it's actually a pretty good comparison to what it's like buying a house. You're Dorothy at the beginning of the film. You wake up, you have no idea what you're doing, and somewhere somebody says, you need to go talk to the wizard, which in this scenario is a loan officer. You need to go talk to the wizard, go talk to the loan officer, get pre qualified, pre approved, whatever, and just do that. That's all the setup somebody gets before they talk to somebody, on this side of the table. So they inevitably talk to the loan officer or the wizard, and 9 times out of the 10, it's the floating head version of the wizard at the end of the film. Look at me, I'm all powerful, I hold the money, you answer my questions, and I'll give it to you. But there's no explanation. So what I like to do is be that nerd behind the curtain at the end of the film that says, let me pull back this curtain and show you how these numbers work. Let me show you why, even though the interest rate might be lower on an FHA loan versus conventional, when you factor in like upfront mortgage insurance or a higher monthly mortgage insurance, your payment is actually higher despite having that lower rate. Not many people actually understood that. They just wanted the lower rate, or how much they're paying in points versus application fees or origination fees or broker fees or whatever it might be. So my stance is just educate. And that's what's really helped me have a successful career here in the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I love that, man. And so along the way, as you're working with borrowers, I mean, is there a story of a borrower that still resonates with you, or one that's just stood out along the way?
There's a couple, and that's tough. So probably, and I've got to give a lot of praise to Guild's product development team. I don't know if anybody will see this, but if you do, you guys are doing great on some of these products. because we have loan programs that have helped clients buy houses where, three, five, seven, 10 other mortgage companies have told them no. So having access to some of these, additional programs allow me to say yes a lot more than I have to say no. As far as the stories or a specific story that, kind of jumps out to me, there was a client, it was earlier this year actually. They had been trying to buy a house. They were going through credit rescore. They had been trying for about 2.5 years, I want to say. And everyone was talking, they were talking to was saying, you need to pay this off, you need to pay this off, you need to pay this off. And I looked at it, I was like, guys, you can qualify without paying this stuff off. Whether it be, they were a joint applicant on a credit line versus the main applicant, like they co-signed for somebody for a car loan, for example, or different things that just a lot of loan officers take the easy route and just say no versus, yeah, we can make this work. So the client I'm referring to, 2.5 years, were being told no. We closed the deal in like 22 days, and I think they brought like $1,400 to buy the house.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
they paid
I mean, it
1,400 bucks.
speaks to like if you're, going that extra mile, you really know the guidelines, you know your products, and what you can do and then explore all those options and really just go above and beyond for those clients to make it possible. That's being a wizard, right?
Well, thank you.
So the other side of this is the relationships that you have with your referral partners and the people that are sending you leads or that you're working with on a day to day. How do you approach supporting that side of your business? Like, what are the kind of the value propositions that you bring to an agent or a financial planner or whoever you're working with?
So it kind of becomes, there's an old example whenever you start building a team or hiring support staff or anything like that. There's an exercise called swim lanes where, I was a swimmer throughout high school. And, if let's say you're doing a relay race, if I'm doing freestyle, I'm not worried about what people are doing in the other lane. I'm focused on my lane. And I think where a lot of, what I would hope a lot of my referral partners say about me is I handle everything within the lanes of mortgages. So, let's say I'm helping you buy a house. Connor, you're not reaching out to your real estate agent saying, hey, can you go over this loan estimate with me? Can you go over this closing disclosure? Is this a good interest rate? Is this the right loan program? What is a due diligence fee? What is an earnest fee? What is insurance? What is title insurance? What is homeowners insurance? What is mortgages? All of these questions where if the loan officer is not answering them, most people are wanting to know what that means. So if the loan officer is not doing it, the financial advisor is, or the real estate agent, or the attorney. I've heard stories of closings taking 2+ hours because the buyer's sitting there is like, I have no idea what any of this means. Most of my closings take like 20 minutes because they already know this stuff prior to getting to that table.
Yeah, and
So,
when they're asking those questions, it's sending a signal that they haven't been educated in advance
correct.
on those things. And it tells the agent or the title company or whoever that, hey, maybe the loan officer is not doing everything they should be, right? So I think that's great. Have you created any sort of like asset or an ebook or anything like that that's sort of like this is the Matt Doyle guide to mortgage?
So it's ironic that you mentioned that because that has been my wife's advice for the last couple of months. It's like, Matt, why don't you do this?
Yeah, yeah.
And I should. So I will say it's in the works.
Okay,
It
yeah,
is in the
great.
works.
Well, we'll circle back on that
Yeah.
in 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Let me get through the honeydew list, but it is on the honeydew list.
I hear you, man. Well, so why is it that you love what you do? I mean, you've been doing this now for just under 10 years in the same industry. You've been in the sales side for five and a half. this is a brutal industry. You got in kind of at the highs, and then you've come crashing down into the lows, but you've been resilient, and you're actually like growing in this market. So like what is it you love about it, and has that been the driver to your growth?
Truthfully, it's there's a ton of reasons I could, answer, or I could say to answer that question. What I learned at a very young age is nothing comes easy, and if it comes easy, it's not worth it. So I love what I do. I love helping people. And I tell partners and I tell buyers that, regardless if you're using me on the financial side or financing side, if there's something I can do to help, let me know. And my wife has probably heard me say that millions of times. And I mean it every single time. If you're buying a house in a state that I'm not licensed in, like let's say you want to buy in Washington, I'm not licensed in Washington. But if you have a question for me, let me know and I will see what I can do to help. And that's what I really do love about this industry is while there are a lot of obstacles and sometimes it does feel like that uphill battle, at the end of the day, the week, the month, the year, I can look back and say, I know I helped somebody buy a house or save money or pay off debt or whatever it is. And that brings me happiness at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's great. And so just to pivot a little bit, let's talk about just the future of this industry, where it's headed, and from a skills standpoint, like what do you see as being essential for a loan officer's success in the next 1 to 3 years? Where should loan officers be focusing to grow professionally right now?
So I would say what they need to focus on is learning something new every day. And that could be as simple as learning a new loan program. That could be simple as learning a guideline. That could be as simple as, um, just learning something new. I feel like a lot of loan officers that have been in this industry a while, at some point they got complacent. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be very, very clear. If you are happy with your business, that's awesome. But for those that are wanting to grow, those that are wanting to improve, do something every single day to help you go towards where you want to be in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So do something today that's going to benefit your future self.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that comes up a lot in these episodes too. The concept of learning is working. I know in sales, it can be hard to stop
Hmm.
and force yourself to learn something new, right? Because we want to go make the next sale, or we want to go get the next lead, and we want to go have the next conversation. But equipping yourself with that knowledge makes you that much more valuable in the next interaction that you have. And if you can teach something, or if you just got that information in your back pocket for when it comes up, and you can be the guy that's like, yeah, I know exactly how to handle that. It's so valuable that I do think a lot of people overlook that. And it's, that's getting through the dip, right? You've got this immediate like surge of knowledge when you first get started, and eventually you sort of plateau. And, you've got to go through that dip to get to the other side and have meteoric growth. So I think that's a great call out. Before
And
we
kind of
wrap up,
real quick
oh,
on
yeah,
that
go
note,
ahead.
though,
Yeah.
I see a book in your background. The top book is by Tim Grover, Relentless. Am I right?
No, that's not what it is. No, the top book I got here is exactly what to say.
Okay.
I haven't relentless, but tell us about it because I know Tim Grover. So
Okay.
tell us about the book.
So if anybody is in really any sort of industry that they want to get better at, I highly advise reading that book. I've bought more copies of that book to give out than I can count. That book is all about just focusing what you want to accomplish and setting a goal for what you're going to do to accomplish it and staying truthful to that goal. So this is not a plug. I am not paid by Tim Grover all the way, although if he sees this, would love to meet you. All jokes aside, I read that book the first time probably about 8 years ago. and I think I've either read it or listened to it every year since. So if anybody's looking for something to light that fire under their butt, I highly
Yeah.
start there.
Now Tim Grover, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but that was like Michael Jordan's strength
Yep.
coach, right? Okay.
Yeah, so he was a strength coach for Michael Jordan, also worked with a number of, top tier named basketball athletes.
Yeah, yeah.
And, he references that a lot in his book, but the book is not about how to become a better basketball player. It kind of gives you more of an insight into the work ethic, doing those workouts. Like, there's a story of like Kobe Bryant at the gym at 3 a.m. and he has to make 100 free throws before he can leave. That kind of work ethic. I'm not going to make 100 outbound phone calls at 3 a.m. Like, I'm not going to do that. But if I know I need to do X in order to hit my goal in 1 year or 3 years or 10 years, don't sell myself short. I've got to do X every single day. And so if anybody's looking for something, I highly advise that book.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I guess just before we go, you kind of beat me to it, but is there any other wisdom, advice you'd want to share with someone who's really trying to figure out how to grow? Let's say they're at 3, 4 loans a month on average, and they're just kind of going, how do I get to 6 consistently?
If you want to get to 6 consistently, shoot for 10. Because if you shoot for 6, you're going to settle at 4. If you shoot for 10, you're going to settle at 6. So whatever your goal is, whether it be how many leads you need to get, how many face-to-face appointments, how many applications, pre-approvals, what have you, always aim for more. And if you aim for the moon, you'll reach the stars kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Preach on that, man. That was great.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you being a part of the lowdown, joining me today on the show. Clearly, great insights that you shared, and I'm just grateful that you were willing to spend some time with us. So, thanks for joining.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it and can't wait to watch more meetings in the future.
You bet. Thank you.
All right.